I'm excited to share a little bit about what YPAR is and how y'all can get involved with this upcoming project. To kind of demonstrate how we run a lot of our meetings, we thought it would be nice to start off with the kind of like icebreakers we like to do, which is generally embodied. So instead of just sitting in chairs and staring at squares of faces all day, if folks are down for it, would people be willing to turn their videos on and stand up? I know no one's wearing pants. That's okay. Just as long as like, that's fine. I feel like if anything, if nothing else, COVID has taught us that nobody likes pants, because when you give the excuse, people are just in their sweats all day. So we got someone in front of the Golden Gate Bridge. Anyway, so, yeah, go ahead and stand up. If it's just not working for you, totally fine to keep your screen off. So this is, we want to get to know you and stretch a little bit at the same time. So how this goes is, you just simply say names, pronouns, where you are right now, and something that's true about you. And it can be anything whatsoever, but something that you suspect other people might have in common with you. And then do a little motion that represents that. And then everybody else on the screen is going to copy your motion, but only if it's also true for them. So I can give an example. My name is Lavana. I live in Oakland. I use she and her pronouns. And I really love to play music with a couple different instruments, or just I love to play music. Sweet, number of folks who love to play music. And I'll pass it over to Josh.
Yo, my name is Josh Bloom. I live in Los Angeles, California, but it is important to note that I am from San Francisco, California, because those are very two different places. So I use he, him, his. Something that is true for me is that I enjoy the scent of lavender hand sanitizer. And I'm gonna pass it over to Kate. Kate, I'm passing it over to you.
Sorry about that. So my name is Kate. I am based in LA, but also from the Bay, Oakland. So thank you, Josh, for pointing out that it's important to call out where we come from too. And one of the things that I really enjoy doing is riding my bike. And then for folks who are just, oh, and I use she, her, her pronouns. And for folks that are joining us, if you can turn on your camera, that'd be awesome. And we're standing up and doing an icebreaker. And with that, I'm going to toss it to Alexis.
Hey, I couldn't stand up. I'm sorry. I'm in LA traffic. Welcome to LA. But I am pretending I'm standing up. I'm Alexis. I'm from Los Angeles. But I'm from the Valley, from Northridge. And one thing I like to do is yoga. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Do I have a motion?
Well,
do like a little zen. Little like meditation. So yeah. All getting honked at.
And Alexis, I know you're driving, so I'm not sure if you can see, but can you see somebody to pass it to? Or do you need assistance with that?
Can somebody be my Vanna White?
Absolutely. Kenny is next to you on my Hollywood Square. So Kenny, you want to go next?
All right. So I'm Kenny. Let's see. Pronouns are he, him, his. And what Something that I enjoy is just listening to music, any kind of music. So I like to switch up my genres all the time just because I feel more rounded that way. And I guess head bobbing is the motion. And I'm gonna pass it to Brianna.
Hi, I'm Brianna. I am currently in Riverside, but from Rialto. I use she, her pronouns. Something that I like to do, I would say draw or write. So I would do something like this. And I'm going to give it to, I'm not sure if April went.
I have not. Hi guys, I'm April. I'm originally from the Antelope Valley, but I'm currently in Santa Clarita. And something I like to do is read, and my motion is this, because opening a book. And sorry, Toby, I'm passing it to you. Since you jumped in late, we are saying, or my pronouns are she, her, hers. We're saying our pronouns, our name, where we're from, and then we're doing what we like to do, and then a motion to go with it. And if you like that thing too, you'll copy it, like when it's not your turn.
Do I have to turn my camera on for this? Because I know everyone else has their camera on.
Preferably yes, but you don't have to. If you can't, it's fine.
It's okay. I'll do it. Hold on. Hello. Hi, my name is Toby. I'm also from the Antelope Valley. My preferred pronouns are he, him, and his. And something I like to do is play bass. So I guess my motion, would be something like that. Yeah.
What if I wish that were something I'd like to do? Can I do the motion?
I don't know who has gone and who hasn't gone. I don't know. I saw Eric was on, so he can go.
Gee, thanks, Toby. My pronouns, my name's Eric. I'm from the Fresno chapter. My pronouns are he, him, his. And something I like to do is work on computers. So I don't know how I would motion that because I do everything from doing the keyboard to actually getting inside the computer. I mean, I guess I could do the keyboard thing. Let's go on ahead and go with, did Angela go? If not, can I pass it to her? Never mind.
Yeah, it looks like Angela might be having some connectivity issues.
Yeah.
So Janelle and Savannah and
Okay.
Janae and Jordan are on the list still.
Oh, let's go with Jordan.
Hey everybody, my name is Jordan, live in Sacramento, but from Los Angeles, Long Beach. Something that's true about me, what I like to do for self-care is I like to run. I like to run for self-care, so for running,
I don't like
that. And I would like to pass it to Janae.
Hey everyone, my name is Janae. I'm in Sacramento, and she, her, and hers. I like to swim. And I will popcorn to Janelle.
Janelle and Simple.
Yeah.
Thanks, Janae. Janelle, I use she, her, her.
sorry, I'm working on some, I'll turn the camera on really quickly. Something that I like to do is take pictures. Not selfies, pictures. And then I'll give it to Robin.
I'm Robin, she, her, hers, and I like to garden. And I will send it to, did it go to Savannah? Did we go to Savannah?
No, it's my turn. Hi everyone, my name is Savannah. I'm from Whittier and I'm in Whittier. I use she, her pronouns, and I like to work out, so I guess I'll like do this with my arms. So like I'm lifting weights. And I don't know if there's anyone left. Is there? Alexa? Oh, yeah, I don't know.
Jordan, did we get everyone?
I believe that's everybody.
Awesome. Thank you all for participating.
So we're gonna just jump right into it. I have a slide presentation and I'll be sharing my screen, and Josh and I will just kind of go through the slides. And as we go through, we hope to have this be more of a conversation than just simply a presentation by the two of us. So please jump in with any questions. If we don't see that you're raising your hand for any reason, it's all good. Just like literally interrupt us, jump on in, and we can talk about anything you are curious about. So let me see. I might need host privileges to share my, no, I don't, here it is. All right, y'all see that?
No.
There it goes.
Oh, there we go, great. Okay. So youth-led participatory action research, what is it? Why use it? We are Josh Bloom and Lavana Saxon from Partners for Collaborative Change. There's a little URL if you want to check out our website, collabchange.org. So we like to start with the question of what is research? Like what pops into people's mind when they think of research? Like free association.
Lots of reading.
Right, reading, what else?
Use of the internet.
Mm-hmm.
A hypothesis statement.
Oh. And who do you think of as researchers? Who researches?
Students.
Mm-hmm.
Social workers.
Yeah, there's a lot of different, you think of lawyers, there are different types of professionals. And who is researched? Who is the research about usually?
Maybe an important person that someone's trying to, maybe like a biography.
Right, yeah, that absolutely happens. A lot of times we think of research, or many people think about research in terms of like a scientist or academic researching another group of people that they are like studying, like they're sociologists or anthropologists or something, but they're not part of that community. And I love this little image that really shows the sort of power imbalance between who is the researcher and who is researched in a traditional research sense. But with participatory action research that we're going to be talking about today, and particularly youth-led participatory action research, we like to flip that whole concept on its head and squish it all together so that who is researched and who is the researcher is the same person. We'll talk more about that.
So again, I mean, this is kind of a generative conversation, which is really kind of the methodology that we approach the work with, and that is rooted in participatory action research. So again, you know, what is action? You know, I think we can start with what types of action exist, and just shout them out, and any types of action you see.
Community organizing, or what do you mean?
And what could that look like? What could community organizing look like in action?
It could be like, you know, people from the community coming together. That could be like anybody, organizations, schools, churches, like people, and getting together to work towards like a higher goal to obtain like a specific type of like power, whatever form that is.
Totally. So there can be something like a direct action, right? There could be an action that's surrounding a get out the vote campaign, right? There could be door knocking or canvassing or different aspects of organizing that require action, right? Any other types of action that we've seen? What's one that we've seen on the news a lot?
Protesting?
Protesting, right? So there are tons of different types of action that we can take. And again, like Lavana said, with participatory action research, you know, the job here is, I'm sorry, did someone say something?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I just jumped in. This is Galilea, part of CYC.
Oh, all good, welcome. So as Lavana was saying, you know, I think our job here really is to determine what type or types of action that we want to take. And typically when we talk about action, you know, action is typically based around goals, strategy, and tactics, right? And so whatever our goals might be, might dictate what type of strategy that we take, which would also dictate what type of tactics that we use, right, to get to our action. And so we'll start to get into a little bit more about what that could look like in the environment of participatory action research.
And then our last question, what is participatory? In the context of participatory action research, what do y'all feel like participatory might mean?
Making sure everyone's involved.
Yeah, exactly. Anyone else?
Is it like, I want to say like micro, I forgot what the word is, but it's like, you know, like surveys and like being more hands-on.
Field work.
Pretty much, yeah.
So it can be all kinds of things, absolutely hands-on, and absolutely involving everyone. And that I think the big difference, because there's a thing in the world called action research, and I think the big difference between participatory action research and action research is that with PAR, when we talk about the participation, we're talking about the people who are the researchers being the people who are most impacted by the issue that they're researching. So they're really taking leadership in examining, understanding, issues they already know about through their lived experiences. And they're not like token participants, as can happen sometimes, but they're designing and running and doing the entire thing with, you know, different folks supporting them if they don't have research experience, which most times in PAR people don't have any research experience starting out, but they're the ones that were like really leading the whole situation. They're not just like showing up at the end or coming in to just give out the surveys that were written by somebody else. They're coming up with like what the research questions are, what the research goals are, and we'll get into that whole process.
And just to add to that really quick, the idea behind that is to say that like you are the experts, you know, like, because you are the subjects, you are also the experts as to what's happening in your community and your surroundings. So that being said, what is youth-led? And just throw it out there. What do you think about when you think about what does youth-led look like in action?
Youth
that
being
we
decision makers. Oh, sorry.
yeah, this is Gally. For me, what youth-led looks like is we are part of the decision making, and that we have a seat at the table. Nothing about us without us. So it's a collaboration, you know, between others who are may have leverage or power or any type of decision, that we as well are included in that conversation.
Bullseye emoji. And so, much like you just said, you know, we talk about a spectrum from tokenism to ownership, and so many times in this work, we see tokenism everywhere, especially in nonprofit culture, also everywhere in corporate culture and media, right? Where we look at specifically folks who are most impacted more often than not, just folks who are marginalized, right? Who are brought into a process, any process that is supposedly about us, right? And for us, but doesn't actually include us, right? From beginning to the end. And so this meeting and this conversation, not this meeting, but this conversation of one of many conversations is, you know, really the start of youth-led participatory action research, because you can do participatory action or research and, you know, and not have it actually youth-led. But I think having, like you said, I mean, a seat at the table, I like to say that, you know, you're building the table, right? You're creating the table together. So that it's actual true ownership versus, okay, you pulled up to a table, that somebody gave you a chair and said, okay, now what's your opinion in this, right? So that's kind of like the spectrum of tokenism to ownership. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right, so here is putting it all together. Here's the definition that we like to play with, that YPAR brings young people together to define for themselves the problems they face in their community, find solutions or steps for addressing the problem through talking with and gathering data from their peers, and implementing those solutions through strategic and informed actions. It's a model of community organizing, shout out to, I think it was Galilea from naming community organizing, that builds the capacity of young people on the front line of a problem to take leadership in creating the change they want. And what is so exciting about this particular project is, because we're working in partnership with Jordan within CYC, this is already going to be leading towards some kind of policy or legislation that like this will build up towards actual change in a structural way through the policy and legislation work that CYC does. So whatever research comes out of this is not going to just sit on a shelf and collect dust, but can actually lead towards concrete change. And then I think who said it? Was it Galilea again who said nothing about us without us?
Yeah.
There you go. This is our favorite quote, and it comes to us from the South African disability rights and youth movements. Love this quote. Mm-hmm. So real quick, sometimes it helps to just like think about how was it different from, you know, quote unquote normal research, or, you know, sometimes I call it academic research, although plenty of academics use participatory action research, but some other, you know, standard forms of research that you may have seen or run into. And here's some of the ways that it contrasts. Josh, can you walk us through some of this?
Certainly. So normal research, like Lavana said, as we see it, is led by outside individual expert. Again, so many times we see this in the world of academia, where like the concept of being an expert is tied to having a degree, a fancy degree, and which is then tied to privilege and access and all these things, right? But again, centering our experience as experts in our communities, right? Because like we were saying, and we'll keep bringing it back to this, you know, nothing without us, about us is for us, right? So like with PAR, you're led by a team of people who've experienced the issue firsthand. And we'll get into a slide in a minute that kind of breaks down the flow of everything. But, you know, just to jump ahead a little bit, you know, the initial process of this outside of these initial conversations is to start with our generated personal experiences, you know? And we have some ideas as to how we can get into some of that.
Before I forget, can I ask a question? Sorry, I'm driving. Are we gonna have access to this presentation?
Oh yeah, it's
Okay.
recorded too, and we can send the slides over.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. Next one down. Generally, there's sort of an ulterior motive for the research, or the motive, maybe not ulterior, is for the experts' peers, to impress them, for their person's own personal career. You know, if they're being supervised in school, it's for their supervisor or academic institution, or they're doing it for a foundation or a company they've been paid by. But in PAR, the whole purpose is to support the community that is experiencing an issue firsthand. You know, so that, and sometimes when there's partnerships with academic institutions, it can get a little tricky because, you know, there's other motives that can impact the outcomes. It's also incredibly difficult sometimes to fundraise for PAR because the foundation always wants to know, like, well, you know, what do you expect to find, or, you know, what are you going to do with your research? And in PAR, you have to not know how it's going to end. Otherwise, you kind of already have you're already shaping it too much and not letting the researchers really drive the process. So it's, yeah, it's really unique to do in the ways that our nonprofits and governments and schools are set up to actually be able to come together to do a process that can truly be organic and not have all of these other agendas shaping it.
Cool. And normal research, like we were talking about, again, living in the world mostly of academia, results in a report, you know, and that's kind of the end result. Is like, I made this fancy report, and I'm simplifying this obviously, and I'm not trying to minimize the impact of the world of academia or some of these incredible reports that have come out of like phenomenal research. But you know, it's just there's a different outcome, and that's to like create something that people can hold and read and then talk about for generations to come, you know, versus PAR actually results in a report and action. And so like the goal is to generate a report. Reports are extremely important. But the follow-up to the report and what the report is informing around policy, around organizing, and creating dialogues in the community to further the work and to further the conversation that the research or the participatory action research began, you know, is the goal.
So a lot of times in normal research, the people who are responding to a survey or, you know, coming to participate in an interview or focus group or some kind of form of data collection, like their personal information is gathered from them. They may never hear about the results. They may never have any connection to the people again and have no idea what happened to their personal information. Whereas in PAR, we really try to make sure that you know, as an organizing project, every person you talk to is joining your mission, is involved in what you do, knows how to contact you, gets a copy of the report, gets invited to the presentation. Like, they're sort of part of the larger project.
I want to pause really quickly, just because this is kind of like one of those times where we're just doing a lot of talking and we're not like in conversation. Are there any questions thus far? Cool. So normal research is mostly quantitative with some qualitative. And, you know, I mean, I wouldn't say that PAR is one or the other, but it's sometimes a combination of the two. And often it's quantitative or qualitative, but you know, I mean, I'll actually bring up a really specific example of a PAR project that Lavana and I both worked on, where we use forum theater and theater of the oppressed, where we acted out skits all across Oakland, California, as part of our research mechanism. And so this was based off of the personal stories of real lives of real young people in the program, where we brought a theater element into it to do like cultural organizing. We acted out skits all over Oakland, and the data we received were the interventions that people actually came up with in those skits around violence was the subject, right? And so the whole research question was around the root cause of violence, and we use skits and people's interventions and acting to come up with qualitative data, right? Which also were parts of dialogue and discussion amongst an audience and crowd and people on stage and whatnot, right? And then there was also a whole quantitative component of that entire research project. And so that's an example of like where we had like survey and questions and things like that. So there's a lot of different ways in which you can actually do it. But normal research is mostly quantitative, you know, and in my opinion, extremely boring. So that's kind of an example I just want to bring up.
Thank you. Yeah, we try to make this fun and creative and artistic. And then the last one here, normal research has this idea that participatory action research is too biased. Like if you're researching people who are experiencing the same thing that you're experiencing, you're bringing participant bias, and so they'll like poo-poo it. From our perspective, outsiders bring outsider bias, and what's even more insidious about that is that they try to hide it, or you're trained in academia to control for bias and try to be as unbiased as possible, but then you might hide your bias or be unaware of your own bias, and we know that outsiders always have bias. And so with PAR, we just kind of name the bias and say, this is what we thought we were going to find because of our personal experiences, and then this is what we found. The reader of the report can judge for themselves if they think, you know, our data is biased or not. All right, moving on. So we want to talk about what this process actually could look like. The way we've shaped this, you know, originally this was going to be a bunch of like fun in-person retreats designed pre-COVID. Now in this new COVID life, we're going to be having every week, we'll figure out with whatever team ends up being part of this, which day of the week and which time works best for people, but try to set up a regular schedule to have 2-hour meetings every week. And then Josh and I will be running the curriculum during that time, and try to really make them workshops that we'll be facilitating, but then supporting everybody who's on the call to like go through the process, make their decisions, design the research, and go through the following process. So first couple meetings will be really focusing on personal and collective reflection, thinking about, what are experiences that we've had connected to the different issues, and how is what we have also, I can't talk, what are the things that we have in common with each other, basically. And then from that, think about why do we have that in common? What are the issues that we have in common with the folks from the COVID task force and what they learned, with other foster youth and youth who've been formerly in the foster care system, what we have in common with them, to generate the goals and the themes for the research. And then once we have all that, then we would design the research, which has, starts by figuring out what are all the questions we want to ask, what do we need to know to achieve those goals. The sample, which is basically who are the people we're going to ask, how are we going to find them, how are we going to make sure we have a group of people that's sort of representative of the issues that we're researching. And then what are the methods? How are we going to talk to them? How are we going to ask them? Do we want to just do survey, interview? Can we do online focus groups, observation? I think we can even do the form theater that Josh was talking about online. We'll have to get experimental with it, but I think it's totally possible. Photo voice, absolutely we can do online, and any other kind of creative research method. So we would choose that at that part of the process. And then once we choose what the methods are, then we go ahead and develop those research tools. So we write the skit, we develop the survey questions, we develop the interview questions, etc. Then we'll have a couple sessions or a bunch of sessions where we're collecting the data. We're hosting focus groups, we're hosting, we're organizing our survey collection process, we're hosting Zoom theater events, whatever it may be. And then we have a bunch of sessions that will be focusing on analyzing the data all together. using SurveyMonkey that really helps with making the data kind of come alive, allows you to filter it in different ways, compare how some people spoke about a thing versus how other people spoke about a thing. To develop like, okay, what is it that we really know to be true in our findings, and what do we recommend, and who do we want to make those recommendations to in terms of the kind of changes we want to see about these issues. And then develop some action strategy, and that's part of the process, right? Take the action, whatever that is, and then do some deeper reflection on how the whole process went and figure out steps. And one really cool thing about the design for this project with CYC is that for folks who really enjoyed the process, who are part of this team and want to continue doing YPAR, CYC is really committed to having YPAR be more integrated into CYC's work. And so there'll be a facilitation training for people to basically replace Josh and I for future rounds of YPAR for anyone who's been part of the project. Jordan or Janae, do you want to say anything more about that piece?
Yeah, so Janae and I will be supporting on through the project and really see how we could start the collaboration with other leadership teams within the organization, including the COVID-19 Task Force, Legislative Policy Fellowship, as well as how we're engaging with community outreach coordinators or regional coordinators to really see the intersectionality of the local issues campaigns and intersecting with the work that YPAR is doing, and as well as kind of setting the foundation for the next future cohorts who will be following the similar model as well.
Lit. Now we have a beautiful illustration in front of us. I personally am kinesthetic and visual learner. I love this. This is basically everything Lavana just said, but in a beautiful flower. This is called the flower of praxis. Praxis is just a fancy word for the word practice, derived from theory. So it's kind of like looking at this as a practice. And so I think that, you know, the way Lavana just kind of broke down that we start with, you know, developing and generating, you know, trust with each other and sharing our stories and all those things, and reflecting on our personal experiences. You can see right there in the soil where we're planting our seeds. That's what we're doing right there, is reflecting on personal experiences, and also building trust with one another. Because I think reflecting on personal experiences requires some level of trust, right? It requires for us to get up, even if we don't have pants on, and trust, you know, everybody here. So we'll be doing more silly stuff. We'll be doing some more kind of like just games and stuff like that, and just kind of getting to know one another before we get into reflecting on some of the personal experiences that we have around some of the issues we want to talk about. From there, we'll be connecting with the experiences of others, right? Which is all of this kind of flows together. And it'll be kind of happening in phases, but it'll feel much more seamless, you know, because some of these things are just kind of overlapping and happening naturally with one another. As we connect with each other's personal experiences, learning about one another, we're then starting to generate critical questions and become curious, right, about what we want to research, right? We're seeking new understandings, you know, and seeing what's underneath these critical questions, right? And then we're critically analyzing all of the information. And that's really what that is data analysis, you know, and trying to actually kind of synthesize and look at all the data that we're getting, and then we're getting into informed action and taking action, right? And like Lavana said, whatever that actually is, from there we're reflecting on the action, because reflection is extremely key and crucial to any type of action that we take. And then we're taking that right back down to the soil of what we know, and we're starting it again, right? Because it's a practice, and so it continues to be cyclical. So that's kind of the flower praxis. Lavana, I think you're on mute.
Thank you. Here's a little bit more about the timeline that we're thinking of. I'm not sure we're going to be ready by mid-July, because mid-July is like in 2 weeks, but we'll see. We want to launch at some point before the this conference happening at the end of July, so that whoever forms the team, we can at least meet one time before the conference, so folks can be thinking about what kind of conversations you might want to be having during the online conference to help inform, you know, your decisions around your research goals and methodology, and just kind of checking in with folks around different themes during the conference. At some point in August, we'll finalize our research plan, methods, sample tools, all of that, have the whole thing designed. And then in September and October, do our data collection. And then in November, do the data analysis, report writing, and presentation. So here's the expectations. Here's what you can expect from CYC and from Josh and I. Number one, you get to take action to improve the lives of other young people. Number two, you get paid as a stipend as a professional researcher. And then Janae or Jordan, you want to talk about quantity? I don't know how much you all figured out budget-wise.
Yeah, with this being a weekly basis meeting, we are doing a rate of $15 an hour. There are potentially additional hours based on the research that we will be doing. So it's a minimum 2 hours meeting. So we will be having in a bi-weekly basis disseminating the stipends based on the hours participated in YPAR. So $15 an hour.
Great.
Quick question. So for those of us who have other roles in CYC, is it okay if we apply for this as well? If we feel we can handle it?
Yeah, I will say other leadership roles, it does not ding you or interfere with your eligibility for the application. I think just really having clear conversations, if you're like SMC role or the task force, how you make sure how you are supported by the staff to balance those two leadership positions. So yeah, you could, if you're serving a current leadership position, it is still, you're still eligible to apply and highly encouraged.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next one is you can expect to develop your expertise and authentically be able to represent your community regarding these issues to inform policy and practice impact. Gain research experience that's directly applicable for college and multiple careers. And get published. Janae, can you say more about getting published, or Jordan?
I was just dancing at the get published part because that's really cool, right, to be published. But most of what I didn't really have anything else to say beside the celebration, just that it's a great opportunity to be published. And yeah, I think that's probably one of my favorite parts about hearing all of this, that your information, like the work that we do ongoing anyway, this is another way to spread and keep the work that we all do, especially you all, going.
One thing I would like to add, and just on this opportunity, is really have the opportunity to discuss where should we be disseminating these information, whether, you know, if this isn't a shadow day, how members could deliver this information to their representatives, today at the Capitol, how this is tied to the legislative and policy work CYC is doing, or if it's something locally, having symposiums with CDSS or county agencies or community partners, and making sure that they're being having this information accessible. So kind of your vision, your dream within this leadership, we would like to make sure the publication gets to the right hands.
And then Josh, tell us what we would expect from the team.
Sure. So pretty simple. Show up, be present, right? You know, show up on time, be present as you possibly can. This only works when all of us are fully present and as much as we possibly can. So, and when you can't make it, figure out makeup hours, which will be possible as well. And then again, it's about 2 hours a week through probably, hopefully July through November, but maybe a little bit later. And there will be a couple of sessions that I would anticipate will go a bit longer. We haven't figured out which days those would be. Engage and participate in each part of the process. I think this is going to be really, really fun and also pretty rigorous and challenging in certain places. And so, and just being mindful about how you show up and, you know, pushing yourself, but also understanding that some of this may be new to you, and that's okay as well, right? Connect with regional chapters and regional coordinators and engage them in our work. So I think that's obviously up to you all. In a second, we're going to get into kind of our roles, your roles, and whatnot. But and this is of course with the support of the CYC staff, you know. But yeah, those are kind of the expectations. Roles. So you are YPAR team members. Hooray! You would be supporting facilitation in certain aspects of the work because, like we've said a million times already, Lavana and I are super generative in the way that we approach the work. We encourage and in fact, kind of like, you know, require co-facilitation from everyone we work with in some form or fashion. But don't worry, again, that's depending on how you feel about it. Some folks I can tell are already rockstar facilitators. I can just feel it. If not, it's okay. You know, there's room to learn and feel supported in that. Collaborate to design the research plan, right? Which will be a bulk of the work that we do. Again, getting back to the flower praxis, collecting data, whatever methodology we choose in collecting data, that would be all. And then collaborate to analyze the data, develop strategies, action plans, and next steps would be all, right? YPAR staff support with Jordan and Janae. Organize and promote the project. Of course, identify the team, which is what we're doing right now. Thank y'all so much. And you know, with all your hard work in getting folks to these meetings. Offer opportunities for interviews and access to decision makers. Again, Jordan, you kind of spoke to this, but as we get, especially toward that process of action, this is going to be super, super crucial with your support. Providing feedback when requested, which I would imagine will be a lot. And then finally, the YPAR consultants, Lavana and Josh. Our jobs are easy. We only got 2 bullet points, so we ain't really doing anything. So we orient team members to research and we facilitate you through the entire process. It's quite simple.
All right. Any more questions? We got 5 minutes.
I don't have a question. I just have a comment. I just really love the idea. Like for me, like being able to still, you know, add to this change and like, you know, how do I explain this? I guess I'm just really used to being like active, right, in advocacy and in a different way. So I'm really excited to just be expanding like my knowledge and like my abilities, you know, to like work, I guess, you know, to like better the foster care system. So I'm just excited, you know, because I've never really done research before or data collection. So I know I'm going to feel like uncomfortable in this growth, but like I'm ready and I really appreciate like the opportunity to be a part of this team.
Fire. Happy to have you. Any other questions, comments, complaints?
Hey everybody, I do want to share the YPAR application in case you're interested. Just appreciate you attending the info session. If this is now learning more about it, still having the interest to apply for the opportunity, I'll put the link to the application in the chat box.
Thank you, Jordan. Do people not have questions because we were so incredibly thorough with our description and just understand it all?
I think that's what it is, because you guys did a really good job and you guys did like hit a lot of good aspects, and I was like, wow.
Oh, thank you. Also, if you're sitting on questions where you're like, I don't know if that's, if that's a stupid question, or I'm the only one with that question, that's probably a fantastic question, and we would love to hear it.
True. Or if you don't want to say it now, you could email us too. That's also fine.
True.
I'm actually really excited. I am going to law school eventually, and this will be my first time if I'm chosen to doing research, which I've always kind of wanted to do, but there's never really been, at least not to this scale. Like we've done little bitty parts of research, but not anything this big. So I'm excited.
I have one question. So, for example, right, those who are going to be able to get on the team, for some, like it may be like I shared before, like something new. So, would there be some type of like coaching or like, I guess just like one-on-one check-ins with like the team, just to make sure that everyone's on track and like really understanding what's going on, or how is that going to look like?
That's a great question. I'll just say, first of all, we don't expect anyone to be coming with any kind of understanding or experience or skill in doing research. And so when we say we're facilitating, that's just, we're also providing training as we're just facilitative trainers also. So we're going to be training and coaching folks through every single step of the process. But we'll be doing it together, and our curriculum is like game-based and interactive. And so it won't, well, hopefully it'll mostly be really fun and you'll be learning as you do it. It'll be very experientially based. And then absolutely, I think we'll set up, I'm not exactly sure who will be the point person out of the 4 of us, and actually 5. We may have another person, Nikia, who's going to be shadowing us and would like to join for our sessions as like an intern with PFCC, but also who's a dope facilitator in her own right. So one of the 5 of us can be available for, answering questions in between sessions, checking in with folks, that kind of thing.
Thank you.
Before we go, I just want to say that I'm excited to meet all of you. I'm starting to get more involved with CYC, and I've always wanted to do something like this or be a part of like a program that really helps foster care and foster youth and focus on changing policies and everything. So I'm very excited. And so I just wanted to say hello to everyone and that I'm looking forward to this.
Welcome to CYC. It's life-changing.
Dope. Anybody else?
Thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you, Josh, Lavana, for introducing YPAR philosophy, and also kind of giving the opportunity for the organization and membership to make the system change that is definitely needed in the foster care system.
Oh, such an honor. I'm so excited to get this project going and to meet you all and get this team off the ground. I come from, my father was in foster care system, and his father was in foster care, and even though I wasn't, it has impacted my life so much. And so I'm like truly psyched to be part of CYC in this way and to be part of this project, and really grateful for the opportunity to work with you all.
Likewise, happy to be here. Happy to meet all y'all. Super excited for the work that is ahead. Let's get it.
Got to make sure more foster youth beat those statistics, right? And not become the, not going to high school or not graduating high school and not graduating college. Like, those are such negative statistics. And I feel like if we can prove like we have proved it, but like if we can prove on paper that that statistic is bullshit, then maybe more youth won't like doubt themselves and will actually try. You know, because I feel like a lot of it is just that, you know, you hear, oh, you're not going to make it, you're not going to do it so often that you start to believe it. Not that they're not capable, just that they're convinced that they can't do it, so they don't even try.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
And
guys.
Jordan, can you keep this line open so folks can go if they need, but if folks have questions, can you keep it open for like 5 more minutes? Just if people have individual questions that they need to have answered. But really great to see everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.
We gotta run.